this slot, we will be hearing from again from Madam Adeline about the reading skill of Pisau, and from the time here, I can see that it will take about 2 hours, but hopefully we can finish early. So that without further ado, I would like to invite Madam Adeline to continue with her session of reading skill. Please, Madam.
Okay. Hi, thank you, Mr. Yahya.
Welcome.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the P-Self Cascading Workshop. I hope everyone had their break and lunch and are ready for the next slot. I hope you're not that too sleepy. Okay. I promise you I will not take more than 1 hour for this slot. Okay. So I will brief you on the next content of the curriculum framework, which is on reading. Okay. But before that, does anyone has any question on the previous slot that I have conducted? Maybe you tak sempat tanya soalan just now. Okay, if you have, you may ask me some questions regarding that speaking. No? Maybe we can start. No, okay. Right, so we shall start then. Okay, you can see my slide, right?
Yes.
Okay, wait, hang on, I just need to. Okay. Now, before we start, right, let me show you this, okay? Now, these are the test focus for MOET CFR Align, okay? I'm sure you are very familiar with all this, okay? These are taken from the MOET test packs, okay? We have part 1, part 2, part 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. These are all from the MOET test specification for reading paper. Now, before the implementation of the PSELF, okay, Form 6 English teachers, they heavily relied on these MOET test packs, especially when preparing their lesson plans, okay? So the focus of the language instruction was primarily on developing skills in MOET specifically for reading, okay? For example, here these are the focus skills for reading, okay? Based on each part of the MOET test paper. Okay, like for part 1, the specific focus is to read multiple texts for specific factual information. Part 2 and 3, these are the focuses, okay? 4, 5, and 6. So altogether, you know, we are very much, exam oriented when it comes to preparing our objectives for our lesson plan, okay, for MOET. But now, with the introduction of the PSELF, okay, there's a little bit of shift in the approach to teaching English, especially in Form 6, okay, as we can see that with PSELF, it encourages teacher not only to focus on language skills, but also we can look at other aspects of language education. For example, exposing students more on language structure, grammar rules, you know, vocabulary building, even on critical thinking and analysis as well, right? So my objective here is to bring you, you know, from these test focuses of reading for MUET to the required standards in the PSELF. All right. So we will be looking at the content standards and learning standards for reading now. All right. But before that, let's look at these 4 objectives of the content standards for reading. All right. Now, reading, as we all know, in general, okay, it serves quite a variety of objectives. It depends on the individual's goals and context, okay? But under PSELF, these objectives for reading, they are more specific, okay? Let's look at the first focus here. To read different types of text. So that's the main focus of the content standards for reading, the first one. This one, when we read different types of text, it basically, to gather information or knowledge or facts about a particular topic or subject from different texts, right? So now we need to realize that this focus is important, especially for educational purposes, okay, even for research. And now with the introduction of the PSELF, the focus is also for reading for leisure, okay, or maybe simply just to read in order to stay informed about certain current events, okay. So the first focus, like I said just now, is to read different types of text. So we need to expose students with all kinds of text now, not only specifically, exam type of text, okay. Now the second focus is to identify main ideas and important details, okay. Now to identify main ideas and important details, this is very, very important, especially for comprehension, okay. In order for students to understand content or the concept or idea of certain text, right? So from the content standards, okay, there will be some learning standards, okay, that we will use in the classroom in order to fulfill this particular objective, okay. The next focus will be to extend thinking through independent reading. Now, this third objective of the content standard for reading focuses on student ability to extend their thinking through independent reading, which involves more on critical thinking, okay, and problem solving. And this objective is common also in academic or professional context. No, it's very useful also for providing students, with bigger insights into certain issues or topic. All right. So yeah, they need to extend their readings more. Okay, not only focusing on certain type of readings. Okay. Number 4 is to use appropriate reading strategies. So students need to acquire very different kind of techniques, effective ones, so that reading for them would be more meaningful. So overall, these are the main focuses, okay, of these content standards for reading. So what are the content standards? Now, have a look at all this. So for reading, we have 5 content standards: 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5. Okay. You notice that there are more for 3.2. There are 6 altogether for 3.2, as well as for 3.4. Okay. So in overall, there are 5 content standards and 20 learning standards that we need to cover for reading. So students need to develop these skills, okay, reflected in these learning standards over their learning years in school, in Form 6, I mean, okay. So we hope that students will learn to practice these different reading skills, in different kinds of situations or activities in their English lessons. All right. You do notice also some learning standards are dropped over here. There's no 3.1.1. but we decided to only give 3.1.2, 3, and 4, okay, as well as here 3.5.3. We also dropped that learning standard. Like I said earlier, these learning standards are quite irrelevant, okay. All right, so let's look at what are the content standards for reading. So there are 5 altogether, okay. The first content standard for reading, understand main points and ideas. Okay, that's the first big objective that we need to fulfill. Okay, when teaching these learning standards. Okay, understand main point and ideas. This is a very important skill, which it forms the basis of effective reading comprehension. Not only for students' understanding, but also it's important for them to be able to answer the reading questions in their exam. So usually this involves skills like previewing the text, or identify keywords or key sentences, um, connecting ideas, okay, identifying supporting details in a text, okay. So all of these that I mentioned will enforce students' understanding, okay, when reading certain texts. So that would be under 3.1, okay. Now 3.2, locate specific details and important information. Now when it comes to locating specific details and important information in reading skills, some learning standards used to fulfill these objectives are like identifying key information or keywords, the basic famous skill like skimming, scanning, okay, text, uh, how to highlight certain information from a text or taking notes, um, focusing on topic sentences in certain paragraphs, or just simple ones like referring to titles, headers, or subheaders. Okay, so this will be under 3.2. Right now, next one will be 3.3, reading and read and understand instructions. Um, Reading skills also it involves combination of strategies and techniques, that can enhance our students' comprehension, and in order for them to be effective readers. Okay, so this content standard helps students to understand instruction, but only if you notice, this 3.3 content standard only focuses on 2 learning standards, not many. It's not important, but we also would like to expose them, okay, with this main technique. Sorry, not main technique, main skill, that is to read and understand instructions. Because nowadays we all know that uh, life comes with all kinds of manuals and instruction, in our daily life. It can be in the form of manuals from, let's say, if you buy headphones or uh, buy some electrical products and so on. So we need to expose our students on how to read instruction and understand them well, okay, from all these manuals, right? So that's 3.3, okay? 3.4, identify cues and infer. Very, very important reading skill. Okay, it's very crucial. It also, this one involves the higher order thinking skills, okay? This one includes how to recognize cues or clues or information present in text, okay, and use them to make inferences, okay, how to draw conclusion from this, so that students are able to understand the deeper meaning of the contents of certain texts. So this skill is by far the most important ones, okay. because it's actually the basis of effective reading comprehension and also critical thinking, because it allows readers to go beyond the literal words sometimes, okay, in the text, and this eventually would lead to deeper insights into any given topic or subject that students are, reading. Okay, so 3.4 is the content standard for that is 3.4. Okay, the last content standard for reading is 3.5. That is reading for pleasure. So before this, like I said just now, we are so focused on exam oriented task, okay, until we forgot the one of the important reason to read is also to read for pleasure. So we need to start, introducing back reading habits among our students, and this content standard um, refers more on the act of reading for enjoyment or even for entertainment, okay, rather than reading, out of uh, obligation, like you need to answer a certain text to answer a test question, okay. Uh, Now you may be wondering, why is this introduced? Uh, we need to realize that reading is not only about the act of reading. Okay, tell this to your students. Reading is, is about bringing students to be more how to say, emotional, okay, and intellectual. It's a reminder for them that it's not only about gaining information. Okay, reading is not only about gaining information, but it's also to enrich their, their mind, their world, broadening their point of views, uh, try to find joy, in the any kind of written text. Okay, so that's why we need to cultivate, the love for reading under this content standard. Okay, at the same time, also we can help them to reduce stress a bit. Okay, because we know that reading is a form of relaxation for anyone. All right. So basically, these are the big uh, objective or goals, okay, of the content standards for reading. Okay, this is what we want to achieve among our Form 6 students when it comes to reading. All right. Okay, let's move on to the more specific ones. Now we are going to look at all the learning standards for these content standards. So the first one would be 3.1.2 under 3.1. Read and understand specialized articles outside one's field. Okay, now this learning standard involves students' ability to engage in more complex texts, okay, from different domain which are outside their own fields, outside their own field of interest. Okay, we need to expose students to text like articles on maybe scientific papers, or maybe sometimes introduce them to some legal texts or uh, more serious articles. Okay, of course this one require practices, uh, but I think we can do this. Okay, starting slowly. Okay, introduce them to this kind of text. All right. From there, they can use that skill, that how to use contextual clues. Okay, teach them how to use this, how to utilize the context clues, how to use their own background knowledge or any other available resources to fill in, the gaps in their understanding. Okay, in order for them to enhance their overall understanding of the text. All right. So we need to teach them this. Okay, specialized articles outside one's field. Next one would be 3.13. Um, Read and identify the content and relevance of news items articles and reports on a wide range of professional topics. So the keyword here would be on professional topics. They need to master the ability to read and identify contents from news items, okay? Articles, reports. This would involve comprehension skills among students. We need to teach them how to distinguish between facts and opinions, okay? As well as activities like vocabulary expansion, okay? Because when we expose students to different types of professional topics, say, this also would enhance their vocabulary, okay, and improve their ability to understand maybe some specialized jargons or terminologies, okay, something that's from professional topics. So that's 3.1.3, okay. 3.1.4, read and obtain information, ideas, and opinions from highly specialized sources within one's field. Now, this is a more difficult one. Okay, this would involve analyzing maybe academic papers, research articles, or maybe technical reports. Okay, teach them how to extract key words, key information, how to extract ideas or arguments, as well as the another important one would be teach them how to evaluate credibility from different kind of reading sources. Okay, see whether they know how to distinguish between you know uh, facts or opinions or not. All right, and how to evaluate some resources. All right, so that's for 3.1.3. More on heavy articles lah. Okay, for 3.1.3. Okay.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Yes.
The 3.14, the last two words there, within 3 words, within one's field, means the student's field, is it?
Yeah. Let's say if for Form 6, right? Let's say if you're teaching science students, okay. So of course there are more on science subjects, correct or not? So maybe if to enhance their understanding more, we can use some articles within their own field, okay, their own field, like some more text on science, or if they are in arts classes, then we can expose them more on anything to do with arts. But actually, it all depends on their level also. So we can't really give them something that is too difficult for them to understand. Start small, start
Okay,
from more like sign papers and so on. Yeah,
okay, I
articles.
understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's move on. So is it 3.1.3? I was there, right? Or is it 3.1.4? Oh yeah, 3.1.4.
3.14.
Okay. Read and obtain info, ideas, and opinions from highly specialized sources within one's field. Okay. Um, 3.1.4. So, like I said just now, they need to know how to obtain information and ideas from all this by using the basic skills like uh, identifying contextual clues, or identify topic sentences, and others. Okay, the difference will only be in terms of vocabularies used in that certain articles, right? So these are 3.1.4. Next one would be 3.2. 3.21. Read correspondence relating to one's interests and understand essential meaning. Correspondent here would be something like emails, okay, articles, letters, or even blog posts, okay. introduce them to different kind of blogs, teach them how to recognize teacher, what do you call that? Teach them how to recognize writer's intention, okay? The tone of the text, the emotions conveyed in the text. All right, so that's 3.2.1. Anything to do with emails, articles, letters, or even blogs, okay? 3.2.2, read a personal email or posting even where some colloquial language is used. Now, this is quite interesting because I think most of them, I think they do write email, personal ones, okay? Maybe they already have that basic knowledge of writing and even reading emails from people who they know, okay? Something more personal for them. So this is quite easy here. But for this learning standard, don't forget, teach them the common what do you call that, acronyms or abbreviations used, especially in digital communication, you know, in text, in WhatsApp or in chats, abbreviations like, you know, LOL for laugh out loud, BRB, be right back, these acronyms, like, or maybe FYI, what is FYI, for your information, or what else? IMO, in my opinion. Now, introduce them to all these lists, okay? Especially on the current one. I do believe that especially Gen Zs, they have all sorts of new acronyms that they use in their daily life, you know, especially when they write to their friends. They use all kinds of terms, okay? So do introduce them to this. This is quite an interesting learning standard that you can introduce in your class. Do engage them also in some social media activities, okay? Also teach them the abilities to understand and interpret colloquial language, 3.2.2, okay? It's important for what do you call it, effective communication, especially in today's digital age, okay? Colloquial language is very common, especially in informal written communication like emails or social media or maybe some online forums. Okay, so that's 3.2.2. 3.2.3, read and scan through long and complex texts from several sources, okay, especially news items, articles, reports, websites, books, etc., in order to locate relevant details. Teach them how to scan for keywords or even dates or names, or, you know, all kinds of numbers or statistics found in the text, right? Expose your student on how to extract information from different kinds of sources, like we mentioned here. Okay, these news items, articles, academic papers also. Okay, so by achieving this learning standard, um, you will notice that students will become more confident and you know, in dealing with complex or quite lengthy text from various sources, okay, which is also useful, you know, in their, even for their test, for the reading test for MWET, right? So once they're exposed to these kinds of articles or the language used in all kinds of text materials, then they'll be quite confident to answer the questions for test purpose as well. All right. 3.2.4, read and understand articles and reports concerned with contemporary problems in which the writers adopt particular stances or viewpoints. Contemporary problems, that's the keyword here. It can be on social issues. Maybe, I don't know if we can read and explore on political issues, but if not, then we forget about it lah. Something it's quite sensitive there. or maybe on economic, contemporary issues like education, or all this. Teach them how to recognize different kind of point of views or assumptions present in the text. How to compare different viewpoints by reading all these different materials, reading materials. Okay, I would start off with something quite relevant and current. Something like what do you call that? Like mental health issue or gender bias issue, something that interests them. Okay, that's something that may be quite related to them as well. All right. Do notice that this one also involved critical thinking, okay, and reasoning, as well as how to draw inferences and conclusions, which these skills are necessary for answering most part of the MUET reading test, especially for part 4, 5, 6, and 7. Right? So if you notice, I may have forgotten to mention all these focuses. Now, I've taken these focuses also from the MUET test specs. Okay, so you do notice that these learning standards also do cater to this focus as well. Okay, so these are the focuses that we are quite familiar with. All right. So next one, 3.2.5. It's still under 3.2. Now this one is recognize different structures in discursive text, contrasting arguments, problem solution presentation, and cause-effect relationships. 3.2, 3.2.5. This one is a little bit heavier because it involves discursive text. Prepare, because these learning standards actually are preparing our students for higher level studies, because this is one of the essential skills for higher learning. They need to know how to read research and academic writings, okay? How to identify, what do you call that? Contrasting arguments in a text, okay? Uh, different arguments, different viewpoints presented in some discursive text. They also need to know how to analyze problem solution text, okay? All this. So this is more high level. It's more, I would say this learning standard going towards B2 plus. Okay, it's still about under B2, but it's heading to B2 plus because it's slightly difficult there. All right, so 3.2.6. Sorry, 3.2.5. Okay, 3.2.6. Read and understand implicit as well as explicit attitudes, emotions, and opinions in a text. Right. So the keyword here would be implicit and explicit attitudes. So we need to teach our student how to identify the clearly stated what do you call it, message, okay, the explicit one, as well as the not clearly stated ones, the implicit one in a text, especially on writers' attitudes, emotions and opinion. So how are we going to fulfill this learning standard? We can teach our student through what is context. Okay, teach them how to identify tones and underlining messages. But of course, this would require also the basic one that require them to know how to analyze textual clues. Maybe there's some subtle hints in authors or characters' attitudes in the text. They need to know how to identify, especially on words, or maybe adjective words, that shows emotions or opinions. Okay, so this learning outcome will help students to become they are more how to say, I wouldn't say confident, but it will make them more like critical thinkers, okay, because they're able to identify implicit and explicit meanings in text. All right. Okay, so that's under 3.2. There are 6 of them altogether, all these learning standards. All right, let's move to the third one, the third content standards for reading. That is read and understand instructions. Okay, 3.31, 3.32. Read and understand instructions and procedures in the form of a continuous text, for example, in a manual. Now, we all know that manuals are designed to provide us with guidance, information, and instructions on various products or even various tasks. Okay, so we can get our student to introduce them how to read manuals, especially user manuals. For example, the simple one would be reading user manual for maybe smartphone. Okay, ask them to bring their manuals of their smartphone to the class and get them to look for information on certain things like how to troubleshoot or some of the common issues relating to their phones. Okay, or we can even expose them maybe to other manuals like home appliances manuals, uh, mm, even recipe, okay, cookbooks. All right, that would be also quite interesting. um, Other heavy ones would be, I think, employee handbook. If you do have an access to that, I think over the internet they do have. Okay, try just let them explore all this. Okay, maybe like medical equipment on how to operate manuals and so on. So this is quite an interesting learning standards that we can introduce to them. All right, 3.2, sorry, 3.3.2, read and understand lengthy complex instruction. Now, this one is more difficult than this one, okay? In one's field, including details on conditions and warnings. Almost the same, but it can vary depending on the types of text, all right? You can teach them how to identify keywords from these these instructions, okay? Um, how to grab some technical terms or jargons. For example, medical terminologies, even abbreviations and acronyms which are related to certain fields. Okay, um, but this one require a lot of practices, lah. Okay, because they're still not used to it, right? Um, but if you engage, students in these kind of activities, such as reading all these technical manuals and academic articles, okay, it can help them to strengthen their ability to read and understand more lengthy and complex text. Okay, I know it's difficult, but we can start small, like I mentioned. So, just start off with a very simple short manuals and instruction, and then after that, you can, as we move on, as they progress, find longer texts and manuals for them to analyze. Okay, expose them to these kinds of texts. Right. The next content standard, that is 3.4. Okay, there are 6 altogether. So the first one, 3.4.1, make basic inferences or predictions about text content from headings, titles, or headlines. This involve a lot of guessing here. Okay, we need to practice, get students to practice their guessing skills here. They need to know how to identify main ideas, predict content, make inferences. Okay, just a simple one by analyzing headings or titles or headlines from all kinds of text. Maybe you can show them screenshots of news headlines from any website or other relevant text. Okay, so this would be quite interesting also. Okay, start small, right? 3.4.2, deduce the probable meaning of unknown words in a written text. Now we all know that, especially during the exam, um, students they don't have access to dictionaries or Google search, right? If they ever encounter any unknown or unfamiliar words in the text. So we can actually help them certain, ways or skills on how to deduce the meaning of these words. So teach them these techniques, okay? Um, get them to identify contextual clues. So by doing so, they are also learning new vocabulary uh, most of the time. Okay, if you engage them in this activity, um, they all, like I said just now, um, making predictions and inferences. Uh, they are very important as well. Okay, in order for them to be able to understand the text better. Okay. 3.4.3, identify unfamiliar words from the context of topics related to one's field and interests. This For this, it can be, if we say one's field of interest, like I mentioned just now, it can be in any field, like maybe medical or law or economy or even history, text, historical literatures, all this. Uh, they We expose them to these texts, all right? And of course, uh, along the way, they will meet certain unfamiliar words. So with the techniques that we have taught them, okay, contextual clue techniques and all that, at least they know how to infer the meanings of unfamiliar words. All right, so yeah, get them to expand their vocabulary, okay, by reading all these different kinds of topics. It would be good, for inferencing and deduction of meaning as well. All right. Um, for 3.4.4, extrapolate the meaning of a section of a text by taking into account the text as a whole. Um, for this also, they are making prediction. Okay, we can start off maybe giving them different kinds of paragraphs from a text, from different kinds of text. Okay, get them to guess or predict what might happen based on uh, uh, the knowledge that they have from that one particular section of a text. Give them maybe the introduction part only of the text and teach them how to analyze the text structure. Okay, so this is particularly helpful for students because especially for part 5 of the reading test paper, that is the gap text. Okay, so this technique it might help them, okay, to answer the questions for gap text in part 5. Right. 3.4.5, exploit different types of connectors and the role of key paragraphs in the overall organization in order to better understand the argumentation in a text. For 3.4.5, this learning standard also is useful for part 5, part 6, and part 7 in the reading, MUET reading paper. Okay, teach them how to identify different kinds of connectors. Okay, uh, maybe conjunctions or transitional phrases, like therefore, however, consequently. Uh, Teach them all the linking words that are useful for them in order for them to understand, the text better. Help them to establish the relationship between these connectors, okay, to the purpose of the text. All right. So, what kind of connectors that show maybe contrasting viewpoints or cause and effects, or maybe what the kind of linking words or phrases that shows providing examples and so on. So this is more on identifying different kinds of connectors. So very, very good technique for them to learn. Okay, 3.4.5. 3.4.6, use a variety of strategies to achieve comprehension, including reading for main points, checking comprehension by using contextual clues. Basically, students need to learn how to scan and skim the whole context of the text. Okay, try to identify main idea, how to identify supporting details here. Okay, uh, most important one, how to use contextual clues. Okay, meaning they need to know how to deduce meanings of unfamiliar words or phrases in the text. All right, so that's for 3.4.6. So this skill 3.4 is very, very useful when it comes to reading, because we know this is one of the strategies that students can use in order for them to understand text better. All right. So next one, the last content standard for reading is 3.5. That is reading for pleasure. Okay, there are three of them: 3.1, 3.51, 3.52, and 3.54. The first one is read newspaper or magazine accounts of films, books, concerts, okay, and understand the main points. This is a quite easy one. Is more on B1 level, okay, for this. When we expose them to read from these magazines or newspapers, uh, we are teaching them how to comprehend points, okay, how to read and understand the main points of newspapers or articles, okay, or discuss various topics from films or books or concerts or other relevant entertainment texts. Okay, at the same time also we are exposing them to uh, awareness, right, on how media sources are presented. Okay, um, at the same time also this learning standard uh, develop students deeper interest into films or even books or concerts. Okay, when we expose this to them, it's more on awareness here. Okay, reading for pleasure. Okay, 3.52, read for pleasure, adapt style and speed of reading to different texts. For example, magazines, novels, biographies, travelogues, guides, lyrics, or poems. Okay, this is more on adapting student style and speed of reading. They need to know how to adjust their reading speed, okay, based on the complexity of the text. For example, let's say if you let them read, what do you call, travelogues, okay, or maybe poems. Oh no, the best example would be reading lyrics. Okay, the speed will be faster, correct or not, as compared to reading poems. So they need to know how to adjust their readings, based on the different types of text. Okay, the reading speed. They must know how to read leisurely
Hi,
and at the same time savoring the
saya
contents. For example, the
kursus,
novels. Okay,
kursus.
and when to read for more quickly for lighter materials, like travel guides, book guides. So the speed will be faster here. Okay. Um, they also, for these learning standards also, we when students are exposed to this, they are also able to choose um, different kinds of text from various genres, okay, as listed here. Okay, magazine, novels, biographies, So everything here based on their personal interests or reading preferences. If the student, if you can ask them if they prefer more on entertainment like songs and lyrics, then you expose them more on that. Okay. 3.5.4, read contemporary literary texts and non-fiction written in the standard form of the language with appreciation of implicit meanings and details. Now, 3.4.5 is more about contemporary literary texts like non-fictions, novels, okay? A non-fiction novel, okay? More on non-fiction written, okay? Teach them literature, not literature as the big L, okay? More on appreciating maybe like short stories or non-fiction works, okay? Uh, how to appreciate and recognize fictional narratives in the text. Also, this would be a good opportunity for us to introduce them again to literary devices, okay? How to analyze them. For example, the use of metaphor or irony, symbolism in a text, okay? Because I think literature is not really, they don't really, expose students to literature more nowadays. Especially in Form 6, we don't really, unless if that particular student is taking literature in English for Form 6 in STPM, then it will be a different thing. All right? So this content standard is more on the fun part for reading, okay? Reading for Asia. Right. So I'm done with learning standards. So I think I should carry on with performance standards. Again, like I've shown you earlier, for that speaking performance standards, it's basically the same. Okay, we have all these 6 levels of performance standards for reading also. Now the difference would be all the descriptors under each of this level. Okay, we all know that level 1 is the entry level, the lowest level. Then they move to higher one to level 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, now let's look at the descriptor for level 1. For level 1, okay, for reading, the student can display minimal understanding of the main points and ideas, specific details and information in extended text with a lot of support. Okay, a lot of guidance are given from the teachers or maybe from peers and friends, or maybe with the support of dictionaries and so on. Then only they are able to understand. Even if they understand, also it's quite minimal here. Okay, can display minimal understanding of instructions and in continuous text with a lot of support. You give them manuals and instruction, they can only understand a little bit. That one also with a lot of support. Okay, can display minimal ability to identify cues and infer with a lot of support. They saw the words, the phrases, still, even with a lot of support, they still kind of understand, okay, the meaning of certain words or terms, okay, in the text. Can display minimal understanding of contemporary literary text with a lot of support. So basically, given the different types of texts, okay, they still cannot understand them well with a lot of support. Basically, they're all under this level, okay, level 1. Level 2 can display some understanding, just like it was minimal, okay, now it's some understanding of the main points and ideas, specific details and information in extended text with some support. So your keyword here to help you to assess your student would be using this some word, okay, some. The next 3 can display some understanding of instructions with some support, can display some understanding of to identify cues and infer with some support, and can display some understanding of contemporary literary text with some support. So yeah, it's very obvious here. The clue here would be using some, okay, to help you to indicate whether the student is either level 1 or 2. Next would be level 3. Basically, we know that level 3 is already B2, okay? Student can understand main points and ideas, specific details, and information in the extended text modestly, okay? Modestly, everything is in modest. Moderately lah, they can, they can lah, okay, basically, all right? Next, level 4, the keyword here would be satisfactorily. Okay, you read all the descriptors here. Okay, satisfactorily. Level 5, effectively. And level 6, very effectively. So they don't have problems in reading and understanding points. Okay, basically reading is a pleasure, not only a pleasure for them, but also they can read and understand very easily here. Okay, they don't have to reread, unlike these 3 levels here. Okay, so basically it starts from 4 to 5 and 6. Okay, the momentum, the ability to read all starts from here. Okay, so yeah, these performance standards are for your reference in order for you to assess your students, throughout the learning periods during Form 6, throughout the 3 semesters. Okay, so these are for reading. And with that, that's all. I think basically I've covered the 3 main things: the content standards, the learning standards, and also the performance standards for reading. I've one thing I need to show you here, okay, before I end. Now this is an example of a lesson plan, okay, for reading, in case you want to cover only reading skills for that day, for that particular day, okay. The most important feature in your lesson plan would be this, the focus skill. Let's say on that day you just want to focus on reading, so your focus skill would be reading. You just write the reading, and the theme is all up to you. Okay, you are free to choose whatever themes that you want. Okay, and the topic will also based on the theme given. So the one that I gave here, I show here, is people and lifestyle, and I cover the topic on relationship. Now, once you know already your focus skill reading, then you move to this. Okay, try and see which content standard you want to cover for that day. If you only want to start off something light, then you just start with 3.5, read for pleasure, and under that 3.5 you move to the learning standards. Maybe you only have one learning standard to cover that day, so you just choose 3.5.1. but if you want to cover another learning standards, you can put 3.5.2, 3.5 or whatever lah, as long as the learning standards, okay, meet the content standard for that particular day. If it is 3.5, then you start with 3.5.1 or 0.2 and 0.3. If it is 3.5 but your learning standard is 3.4.3, then it's wrong. Okay, it's not supposed to be like that. So you must complement it. The numbers here must complement, okay, and that particular content standard. So basically this and this are the important part in the coming new lesson plan for you, for your class. Okay, and of course don't forget the learning objectives, because each learning standard would have their own specific objective. It can be 1 or 2 objectives, or it can be more, so it's up to you how you're going to. R here means reading. This is my own quotes that I use in my lesson plan, so you don't worry about the R. Okay, but basically your learning objective, like I said just now, should meet to these learning standards. Okay, and the rest will be this lah. It's all up to you lah, but these are the most important ones.
Can I ask about the learning objective? Where do you get those? Is it from the focus?
You can use the focus. You can also come up with your own objective which are relevant to the learning standard.
Okay, so this will not be provided later on in the script?
The one that are provided is only content standard and learning standard. So the learning objective is all up to you. actually you can already start designing your, what do you call it, the content for your lesson plans, like go through all the learning standards that we give you, right? So for each of these learning standards, try to come up with as many learning objectives as you can, which are relevant to the learning standard, so that when it comes to preparing or writing your lesson plan, it will be easier for you. You already have that certain list of standards and objectives for that day. Okay? Any question? Any more question? Does this help a bit, this lesson plan?
Yes.
I can't really show you the correct one, because it's right now we still don't have the official document that is the scheme of work, okay, for you. So I can't show you, the real one. Even I also don't have it. I mean, I don't have a specific kind of lesson plan. I'm currently using the old ones, the one that we have been using all this while. So until the real document comes, then only I will start, using all this, lesson plan. Any question? Tomorrow also there will be a Q&A if you want to ask more question, more serious one. Let me see.
There's a question here in the chat.
Okay, let me go through.
Okay, can I read one question from the chat?
Inona. Alvin said students are using AI to help them to do their work. Some may not have the requisite skills, but do not feel the need to learn them, since AI-based apps are easily available. How does PISA account for this? Yeah, I know what you mean here. You can't really avoid that. It's actually a problem. Even now, so I'm having this kind of problem. My students, even if I ask them to come up with, especially on writing activity, or it's more on writing, they tend to use AI, to the help of AI in order to produce their work. So, which means that they uh, they don't meet that learning standards requirement already, correct or not? So that is a problem. But I think we can try to avoid that damage, if that happens. uh, I think the best would be you don't ask them to bring back their work and do homeworks. Ask them to do their work there, and then avoid using phones in the classroom for once. Okay, only allow them to look for main points. I think as you are the teachers, I think you know your students' level. Like for myself, also once whenever I see my students come up with very impressive work, um, as a normal human being, I starting to feel like, okay, I'm quite curious about them already, because I know their level. They are actually, how can this student, giving me this C1 level text? Padahal in actual fact, they are actually only a B1 student. Okay, so yeah, I do understand what Elvin means here. I don't know how we're going to, uh, fight AI in this sense, with the help of PSELF also. But we will try our best, try to meet these learning standards as well. Okay? Yes, Alista?
At the end of the day, which performance standards are we held to? Are we held to the performance standards as in the new SOW, or are we held to accountable to MUET standards?
Okay, the performance standards in the PSELF document, they are just for your own guys, If you wish to do assessment in order to check your students' level, you whenever you feel like you need to check on their progresses, okay? Maybe like in 1 week, or not to say 1 week is too fast. Maybe like within one particular month, whether they meet that certain learning standards or not, they meet the criteria in the performance standards or not, then you use the performance standard. But like I mentioned earlier, we still have the MUET, correct or not? And students need those MUET result in order for them to further their studies. So we cannot say we must disregard MUAT completely. It's still there. So but the performance standard is only for it's helpful for you whenever you want to perform a small assessment in the classroom, just to check on their progress for certain skills. Okay, so yeah, we still have to hold on to that MUAT. At the end of the day, it's still MUAT lah. Okay.
Another question, because we are afraid that there will be some minor misconceptions that whether MUET is the standard of assessment or the new P-SELF will be the standard of assessment at the end of the day, because both are official standards. Because once the SOW comes, the performance standards is going to be will be an official document, will be an official standard in itself. Then it will clash with MUET in the sense that which do we are accountable for? That's the thing at the end of the day. Because MUET, as we know, we are more test-based, and I see performance standards are more towards pentaksiran berdasarkan PBD. Yeah.
So like I said just now, for the meantime, we just stick to what is offered. Okay, like for MUET, memang we have to prepare our students for the MUET exam, correct or not? But at the same time, we need to go back to the main objective of that P-SELF, that is not only to prepare students for MUET, but we are also equipping them with all these important learning skills for all these 4 components. Okay, now just bear in mind that yes, we cannot say that MUET is no longer relevant, even with the new document that is coming soon. Students still need to sit for MUET, okay? But at the same time, we don't try to implement that performance standard assessment in our classroom in order for us to check on our students' progresses. It's more on checking whether our students are on the track or not. Okay, so these descriptors will help you. So don't worry so much about whether that MUET is no longer relevant or not once the new document will come in. I think we still need to sit for MUET. MUET is still very, very much important, because under the policy, education policy, the university entrance all depends on MUET results. So yeah, don't worry about that. Okay, performance standard, it may sound like a quite, how to say, it may sound a bit threatening to most of us, but basically they are there just to help us to to check on our students' progresses. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions?
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, I'm Roslyn from Maktab Sabah in Kota Kinabalu.
Hello, Roslyn.
This is not so much a question, but maybe more of a comment. Maybe I would like to hear what you think about it. But when I see this happening, I think we are heading to a time when the English teachers at Form 6 level become official HTPM subject teachers, and which also means that there will be an exam, assessment of some sort. Because I still remember a time when I had a Form 6 class, I was going into the class 24 periods a week, because I was teaching them 8 periods of MUET, 8 periods of English as in literature, and 8 period of English language, which was an STPM subject. And they
Okay.
actually sat for this paper, but I don't know. I don't see that subject being offered at STPM level anymore. I mean, it's been quite a number of years. I think we might be heading that way.
Um,
Back to the past, maybe a better one.
I personally feel that before I answer that, I think we are all aware that in our e-operasi now, we know we are identified as guru bahasa Inggris, uh,
Yeah.
what do you call it, post secondary English language teachers, correct or not? They don't identify us as muet teachers, correct or not? So from there we do get the understanding that we like you said just now, uh, slightly going back to the old ways, teaching English as a whole, exposing students to not only on the exam content, exam aspects, but more on appreciating the language as a whole. So if you do notice, the learning standards also do include some of these requirements and criteria, how to appreciate language more in terms of vocabulary, maybe appreciating language in many ways, exposing them to new, not new lah, but more to like the old, subjects like literature. So, but of course, there's no literature in that. But in a way, we are exposing them to some of these elements. Don't worry about also about having to teach extra. You are still going to teach this subject, English. Okay. I would say that if you are no longer uh, identified as muet teacher, uh, try to get used to be identified as English teachers macam biasa, okay, but post secondary English language teachers. So yeah, we still need to teach all this, and like you said just now, for STPM, students will learn all kinds of subjects, correct or not, taking all kinds of papers, but at the end of the day, the exam that they're going to sit for is STPM. The same thing like us, we're teaching all our students all the aspects of English, okay, for all 4 skills. And also at the same time, we are preparing them for the exam, the main exam, that is the MUET exam. So yeah, maybe we kena biasakan diri, addressing ourselves no longer as white teachers, but more on English teachers. Okay, yeah. See the questions. How soon are we going to get the official documents? I have no idea. It could be as soon as September, or maybe after September. So BPSH did really give us the exact date. Okay, even right now, so for us, the master trainers, we only have the draft documents of the whole PSELF. So yeah, we don't really have, the exact date for you. Any more question? Can we have the schedule for tomorrow? Oh, you have to ask Mr. Yaya regarding this. I think, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow's first slot will be on writing, and after that we'll have a short break, and we will move for Q&A session. Okay, the big Q&As. If you do have some other questions regarding this whole thing, you may ask them tomorrow. Okay.
So if only one slot, does it mean half day?
I believe so. Yeah, because the first slot will start in the morning, correct or not? And we'll have it will, like, writing will only take about 1 hour, so we'll have like a short break, and then we'll finish everything by afternoon, before afternoon.
Before afternoon, okay. All right. Is it 8:30? Because today we started at 9.
You have to ask Mr. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
For your information, for our schedule for tomorrow will start at 9 a.m. Madam Roslingan will go through the writing skill standards, and then we will have a short break, half an hour break, and we'll continue at around 11 for the Q&A session. So hopefully tomorrow we will end early.
So that means only no afternoon session.
No, because we are quite busy here at JPS.
Okay.
And I'm sure all the teachers are busy too.
Okay, thank you.
Including our MPs. Yes, welcome.
Thank you for inviting all of us instead of only one teacher per school. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, madam.
Mr. Alvin asked, PSELF is under BPSH and not BPK. Yes, PSELF is under BPSH. They are the one who are responsible for this.
Okay, no other question? So I think, madam, we can end the session now. Okay, thank you so much, Madam Adeline, for your sharing on reading skill standards. So far, we have heard about listening skill standard by Madam Doreen, speaking skill standard also by Madam Adeline. Just finished reading skill standards, and tomorrow there's one more skills that we will Madam Roslingan will be sharing with us, and that concludes our session for today. So for tomorrow, like I said just now, we will start at 9 a.m. Because I am told by Madam Roslin she will be having a class in the morning. So that time slot is being dictated by her. So it starts at around 9. Hopefully everyone can join tomorrow, and please